I would like to procure the bag.
I wanna be a rich bitch. Penthouse doorman, money, 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 rich bitch. Hey, give me that bag. Rich bitch.
Yes. You're so rich.
Pay me.
Trying to get back to you guys, and I'm like, oh.
Well, I mean, if a Manson girl can get out of prison, you can do anything.
Isn't that wild? That's crazy. I know the other one had been trying too, and Krenwinkel, Patricia Krenwinkel. So now it's like, oh my gosh, can you believe that? I can't even imagine. It's not even that it's scary that it's a Manson girl. It's the fact that what is she gonna do? Like
she'll do a press tour. She'll write a book. She'll have a whole thing.
I'm actually kind of interested in meeting her. I'd like to be like in a signing, and I'm like, yeah, you know who that is, and watch everybody either just like wow or, so it'd be great.
Amazing. So really quick, everybody who's listening, we're going to introduce Ryan Winter. He's an author here with us. He writes predominantly, I believe, horror thriller kind of adjacent stuff. And we're going to be talking with him this episode as we kind of get into it with your hosts, me and Madame Sarah Seeds.
Is my mind.
It was for a hot second and then it went away. Oh no, we're having technical difficulties. Please hold.
We should. Oh my gosh!
And
what?
we're
the
back.
First time it's ever happened.
We've never had technical difficulties on this show before.
Oh my gosh, it's definitely me. I'm telling you, the weather here, it's crazy. It's thundering 1 minute, and my computer keeps saying, full sun, and I'm like, where? And then like an hour ago, sure enough, there it was. And then there was a rainbow, and boom, here comes the storm again. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh my God, planet Earth is drunk. It must. There's something in the air today. I got to tell you, I feel my energy has been off for the last 2 days. Today was like another kind of yesterday adjacent kind of vibe for myself. But then also on the train home, I now have this new tradition that has started over the last 2 weeks of me working in this office of running into my friend Tom because he works nearby my office at his. And we run into each other on the plane platform. Listen to me. This is what I'm talking about.
We should trademark that.
We should make a t-shirt.
Plane platform.
a plane platform. And we ride the train home together because he lives up here in this neighborhood. And in the car that we were in on the train, there was a woman speaking very firmly to a gentleman in the back of it. And then we hear this like click, 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 click. And we're like, what is that? And we keep hearing it. And Tom turns to me and he goes, does somebody have a taser? And sure as shit, this woman had a taser that she was like clicking off above her to get this guy to leave her alone. Wow. And I was like, if we all get electrocuted here, guys, like that's just not how I planned on going out today.
Oh my God. Now here's the thing that like trips me out here is you take a train.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like as in like an actual train to
like subway, man.
Oh, a subway. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm from the South, man. We don't have subways.
Okay. Well, that should have been my next question. Why don't we have our guest introduce himself? Where are you from? What you do? All the things before we go off the literal train rails here.
Absolutely. I don't take a subway, unfortunately. We have to walk in this disgusting heat. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. Mysterious New Orleans, Louisiana, which I miss terribly. I'm now in southern Mississippi. Please get me the hell out of here. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Everything is what you hear is definitely fact. No, I'm from New Orleans. My dad's family, they're all from there. So I come from a very colorful background as far as story. It's no surprise that I'm a storyteller. It's either that or a drunk or a liar or all both. It's New Orleans. So you know how that goes. Or a fortune teller, whatever I can do to make money. And no, I mean my family, they're the quintessential French Cajuns, the loud, boisterous ones you see on TV. They're definitely that. Very, very fun people. So love to tell stories, love to talk about folklore, and it's not hard. It's not difficult. Being Louisiana has such a crazy history.
Folklore like Taylor Swift folklore.
Oh God, even she would blush. Let me tell you.
Wow.
I'm sure.
No, I love New Orleans. I was there on a trip, and it's just such a magical, weird place. Mm-hmm. And it's such a creative, kind of dark but mysterious place, and I think it's fantastic. The food is great.
Yeah,
I've never been.
Ooh. Oh my God, Edward!
I
come
know.
on.
I've had a couple people invite me for Southern Decadence, which like I just don't think that's my vibe. Although like the gayness of it all, sure, maybe. I'm just like I'm not like DTF in the middle of the street,
Well,
like,
that's the thing about it. It's definitely not like a regular. I would never call it Pride. I mean, we actually have a separate Pride festival, but
oh, it's definitely not Pride. It's very
yeah,
different.
no,
It's very
it's
not that.
Mardi Gras without clothes. I mean,
It's
come
not Pride. It's
on.
unpride.
It's unpride.
It's hide your pride, man.
Yeah, I've seen many a photo and many a video from Southern Decadence.
Southern Decadence? Like I've never heard of this.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not,
Okay,
it's a
so
big. I'll let you're from there, so
this
you can explain it
the
better than I can.
I
Ryan,
have to
tell
tell you
us.
this. Okay, so I have an interesting story. When I was, I think the first time I attended it, I must have been 19. I don't know why I think, because I couldn't drink. I knew that. Well, in New Orleans, it didn't matter. I mean, but I legally couldn't drink. And I went with some friends, and I think this one might have been my second one, but it was my friend's first. And when I tell you, he's like background North Louisiana conservative. I mean, he was nervous as shit. Like it was just scary for him. And I'm
Why did
like,
he even agree to go?
it's curiosity. It's always that thing. It's like, oh, I don't want to play with a rattlesnake, but what happens if I do? So
Oh my goodness.
and so I I think that he was, I mean, he was super nervous. So, and he was looking around the corner. I mean, everywhere he's looking behind him like, what are you doing? Like you're not, like nobody's watching you. Like, they're all kind of watching each other. And he said, I'm just afraid I'm gonna bump into somebody I know. And I'm like, well, the world is small, but dude, I mean, there's like 100,000 people out here, man.
Dad?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this.
Oh
So,
boy.
and so he's specifically looking for something, and he wouldn't tell me. Well, sure enough, after an hour and like 4 shots of tequila, I finally got him to relax a little. And he said, "Did you see what happened in that corner?" I said, "Dude, no, I don't look. I don't. No, man. I'm disease free, man. I'm not going in that corner." So he gets out there and he's finally calm and he goes outside and he starts running down the street and I had to chase after his stupid ass. And look, the sidewalks in New Orleans are nothing you want to run down, man. I mean,
No.
they're jagged like the Rockies. It's crazy. And so I finally stopped him and said, "What is wrong with you?" He said, "I just saw my priest here."
Oh,
And that was the end. And I'm like, "No, you didn't." And he goes, "Oh yeah." And he was wearing those chap things. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, let's go. First, my instinct is like, let's go talk to him. Let's go talk to him. And he
yeah.
is just pale as death, man. He is not going anywhere. And that was my second experience
And
there.
that's the story of how he fucked his priest.
That's it.
It was fantastic, man. I had to follow this guy everywhere, and So as far as what the priest did when he went up to these little upstairs spots where you go, I don't know. I was a
Well,
little.
you're selling me the idea of going to this thing.
Ed's already packed his bags. He's
I've already
in.
booked a flight.
Yeah.
Oh man, if you haven't seen it, you definitely have to go. But
Oh, I've seen pictures of it.
you know,
I'm super sex positive and I love being in environments that kind of like allows for that. Because
oh,
I think we're
absolutely.
also pent up with this like weird veil of like how sex is dirty and bad and belongs behind closed doors. And like, yes,
Mhm.
there is context for that, of course.
Of
Sure.
course.
But like, I think I mean not literal doors. I think I mean, hyperbolic doors.
That's
Um,
right.
and so like, I used to go to a nudist camp where you like in Pennsylvania where you would just like run around the forest naked and like there was a pool and
Oh
there's a
man.
restaurant and they would bring you food and there was a campsite and it was
Wow.
so fun. Oh
Oh,
my God, just
I
like
need to get that
hundreds of
info from you.
people. Yeah, it's called The Woods. It's in the Poconos.
Mm.
It's lovely.
Is it a mostly
Um,
like gay scene, gay
it
queer
is.
scene?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had heteronormative people come. But I believe the few people that I saw there when I was going were like sex work people. Like they worked in the porn industry, and like, the one guy
Oh,
was
they
like
were just right at
straight.
home.
He was like straight, but he did gay porn, and then like he brought some women with him and whatever. So like it was cool. It was like whatever. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Tuesday for them. Like, oh my gosh. Well, no,
Yeah.
there's this when you go to Decadence, it's funny, and they do, and the same group comes from Mardi Gras, go figure, and it's always these guys on the loudspeakers, and they're like, God saves, blah blah blah, and
Ugh.
here's the funny thing about that: they're walking through this crowd, and they're holding hands, and there's not one chick that's there. So why do you come during Southern Decadence? I don't see you except Mardi Gras and
Mhm.
that, and there's no women. So if these guys have wives or girlfriends, nowhere to be seen. And they're sort of like holding each other's hands or they're holding each other's shoulders and they're going through this crowd while they're chanting. And it's interesting.
God saves. his load for Southern decadence.
That reminds me of the Mermaid Parade in New York. It's different though, but I've gone
a little
every
less
year.
sexy,
Pretty
but
sexy,
still
but not like as
not like that,
not like that. It's a family thing. But anyway, it's like a quirky Brooklyn, Coney Island parade, and women are wearing no tops, and it's just like mermaids and magic and whatever. It's really fun, and I've gone every year, dressed to the nines with a great wig and all that good stuff. All my group of friends go, like 14 of us every year. But there's always like a couple people that are just like, you are going to hell, you will all burn and it's just like, why are you here? Like, and you're just staring at you. And then, but my favorite scene is my boyfriend Mike talks about this thing all the time, but this very large woman started twerking on the man as he was screaming and getting angry, and it just kept going and going, and she just kept doing it until he like was like and like would just not stop. And then my friend in a sailor outfit, she grabbed his hateful flag and started to pull it down, and then he grabbed her wig and tore it off, and all these and we were just like, this is such
entertainment.
A scene.
It's great.
I know. And then all these majestic lesbians came out of nowhere and gave her her wig back and hugged her and gave her the thing. And then the guy left. So he got twerked on, he got scared off, and he took a wig, but then, we got him away.
These guys are pretty passive. They let us take pictures with them and all. They're really not.
This guy was like mean and angry. Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, no, you just can't come to New Orleans at all. Like, dude, we'll stop you at the city limits. Like, stop, man. Like, no. Yeah, no, do y'all have the naked bike ride? Do y'all do that?
We used to. I know we used to. We also used to have no pants subway ride.
I did that. Yeah,
I did that too, but I don't remember. I don't think they still do it. I feel like I remember it getting canceled, obviously for the pandemic, but I don't think that they've done it since.
Right.
Yeah, because that's definitely ongoing in New Orleans, and I figured it was probably in different.
I'm sure we do it. I don't know.
Of all places, we have.
This is Googleable. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna look it up.
No, I did the no pants subway ride about 5 years ago. But what sucks is, like, as a woman too, like, these creep guys will be there and they'll take photos. And then I found myself on like in a magazine, like an online Instagram magazine of women of New York, some creep handle. And I was like, damn it. But I was like, she looks good though.
Yeah.
But she looks good though. So then I got over it. It's fine.
Okay, we just missed it. So we do have it here.
Okay.
And it was June 17th.
Of course, it's in June.
At 3 p.m. Of course. I mean, like, how could you do that in any other month of the year?
Yeah.
But they do also have it's World Naked Bike Ride. The one that's coming up next is Chicago. Am I wrong? Nope, we missed that. That was June 24th. Never mind. But it still happens. And I wasn't 100% sure that we had it in New York, so that's good to know. Maybe I'll do that one year.
Do it.
Sanitize that city bike seat and just get on.
Oh God, put a plastic wrap on that girl.
Thankfully we have, our weather is hot pretty much all year round, so just do naked bike rides. I think it should be like a monthly thing.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
I want to know, like, what and about New Orleans, like, what is I know you said your family has a German background, and is anyone else in your family like creative or in the arts, or?
Oddly, no. I don't have one of those. Same. Like, yeah, crazy, huh? Now, I have an aunt who's this is on my dad's side. She's she was born in New Orleans, and real boisterous, loves to laugh, real fun. She's the one, if you wanted to come out, she's the one you go tell, because she oh yeah, she's like a big teddy bear. She's
everybody needs a cool aunt. Everyone.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. And she's definitely that person, because when I was younger, her house was in front of ours where we lived. I grew up I was born in south of New Orleans, but I grew up in New Orleans. But when we lived in the burbs, she lived in front of us, and I was able to watch horror films because she was okay with it. I never told my mother. I don't think my mother ever knew, but I had two older cousins, and if we sat together, we could watch anything. And I remember the first movie that I can remember as a kid watching was Creepshow. And then I think, then it was like Amityville Horror. Then it was, because she was the only one on the block that had this new thing called HBO.
Oh, what was Max HBO?
Now Max.
Oh yeah, that's right, huh? That's right. Boo.
Boo,
she had the big tan box, and it had the red letters. the big cable box.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah. We're
yeah.
going back, man. This is like 1981-ish. You know.
Wow. I didn't even know about this. This is so exciting. So HBO used to
Oh
have its
yeah.
own box.
They had its own server.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Home box office. That
That's
totally makes
right. That's
doing.
it. Oh yeah. Well, it's when cable was a thing. When you said cable, we would always be like, "What cable? What's that?" It's not television. You're watching movies. No commercials. What? That's crazy. And it was always
Yep.
home box office that had this and the big opening and all that. And I remember that. We got to sit and watch all these films, all the Elm Streets, all the Jasons, and so
I love that.
that's kind of like the feeling of where I come from is having that sort of liberation to just kind of write and listen to whatever I wanted. I've never had my parents were never really, they were hippies. They would leave me with babysitters just so they can go see, David Bowie in concert and Queen and
Work.
all these people. Yeah, yeah. They
Oh
went
my
see
God,
Led
my parents
Zeppelin.
saw
Yeah.
Queen like 4 times and I hate them for
Oh,
it.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
disgusting. Yes.
I know. So
Haven't seen them.
I'm guessing our parents are about the same age because very, very similar like vibe is what I'm getting here.
Dad, I think, is almost 70 and mom 65. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents are like early mid-60s.
Okay.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'll be 45 in 3 weeks.
Work.
Well,
Yeah.
happy birthday.
Boom. Thank
Gotta
you.
get it.
Leo. Woo. the
Leo,
first.
I'm a Virgo, but I should have been a Leo. It's okay.
Oh,
though.
hot diggity. That's all
Hot.
right. No, my brother's a Virgo. He's my best friend. He's
Good.
fantastic. Love Virgos. It's
We're
great.
good people. Me and Beyonce. But yeah, so exactly. So it sounds like you had like a great outlet, and you also, it seems like you always were just judging by your work and also judging by where you come from. How could you not be into like the occult or crime or paranormal or
Exactly.
I mean, how could you not? Like there is something about New Orleans. Ed, we have to go. We have to do a New Orleans special.
We should.
Oh,
That would be
yeah,
really fun.
yeah. Oh, let me tour you guys, man. Come
Tell
on.
us. Tell us everything that's great.
Yeah, man. Look, you come down, buy me drinks. Boom, I got this.
Done.
I will let you
Done.
know everything.
I love it. Maybe
Yeah.
we can do this like over Christmas when it's cold and terrible. We can escape
Yeah.
to New Orleans.
Yeah, because we wear shorts sometimes. It's very hard to tell for especially Christmas or in December in general. I mean, there was one year, this is so stupid, my God, Mother Nature. It was I think one day, it was like a Monday, let's say, and it was 74, 75, which is normal. And then it was like 4 days later, boom, it was snowing for the first time in like 10 years. Yeah. And I'm talking like, what, for 2 days, full snow, never happened to
Oh
me
my God,
before.
we
When
gotta
was
love that
this?
global warming, girlies.
This was that whatever the year, let's see. I'm going to say around 2018-ish.
Yeah,
It was
because
definitely
when
before COVID.
I lived briefly in Tennessee in middle school times, and they like were panicking when like there would be a tornado coming through and just would destroy like 12 houses, and they'd be like, "It's all right," but then
Yeah,
like it would
yeah.
snow for like 2 seconds. They're like, like
Yeah.
everybody go home, school's canceled.
Oh God,
like,
yeah. Airport
It's
closed,
all
everything.
right.
it's all
And
right.
and what we call snow, y'all call flurries. Y'all just laughing.
Yeah,
at
it's a
it, you know.
joke. Like, because
Right.
I was coming from Maryland, like Baltimore area, and I was like, guys, we've been in blizzards, like chill. And they're like,
Yeah,
no,
we're
my
getting
God, look,
dumped on.
oh my God.
Although we haven't had a really solid blizzard here in like about like 7 years, I think. I think the last one that I'm recalling is like February of 2016, I think.
Ish, yeah.
When like we got jumped on and they closed the subway down, which they never do.
Yeah.
But de
Wow.
Blasio was like 2:30, we're cutting it off. And so people were like running home.
De Blasio's wife just left him. But
I
anyway, let's
know.
see.
Well,
Color me
it's
surprised.
the winter. The winters. I mean, when it gets cold in New Orleans, the thing is that the buildings are meant to keep, the heat out. So there's no
Right. So
when we're
everyone
trying to
dies of
warm up.
hypothermia because
Oh my God, yeah, it's crazy. I've had my, thermostat up to, 100 degrees and it still doesn't matter because first the houses, especially where I lived in the French Quarter, they all sit off the ground. So you have all
Right.
this underneath air that just keeps
Oh
circulating.
my God, you live
So
in an ice box. That's so scary.
it's crazy. But again,
Wow.
it doesn't really freeze up. But normally the coldest month is always around Mardi Gras. It's always February.
Right.
And of course, by that time we're so blitz and shit faced, nobody cares what temperature it is.
That's
Right.
true.
Drink your way through winter.
Yeah.
So like kind of tying this back into your HBO memory, like what kind of got you started with writing, creative writing, whatever you want to call it? Like was that kind of like just stated because of like having access to cable and HBO stuff and watching horror movies
Yeah.
with your aunt? Like did that what was the series of events there?
It's definitely was a sort of a domino effect. It started, of course, that was the seed that was planted, you know. From then on, you know, I moved over into books, and I think I was at, 8, 9 years old. I'm telling my mom, like, I want to read all the horror greats, and she's like, no, you don't, no, you don't. And so she gives me this copy of, I don't know if you remember the Children's Illustrated Classics, those little thick books. I mean, they're real, real cute, but they were black and white. But oh man, I think they still sell them today.
Mhm.
And I think my mom was trying to indulge me, but trying to do it kind of like, well, if it's one of these old classics from the 1800s, it's, maybe that won't be so bad. So she gave me the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde one.
Uh,
And oh man, you know the story, but have you read the story?
mhm.
And it was the first time I think I noticed that, something that you write on paper can literally just scare the shit out of you just as quick as these movies I've been watching. And
So
I think
true.
she inadvertently pushed me into the pool a little bit more. And then around that time, I had there was an assignment in God, I'm gonna say third grade, and we were allowed to go into groups and write these short stories. And I was a very shy kid. It's crazy. Yeah, no one believes me. None of my friends like, yeah, right. I'm like, no, no, no. I didn't talk to anybody. And I had a bully on the playground, and his name was Guy. Go figure.
Oh,
So
Ugh.
yeah, a bully named Guy. Hey, Guy. So
gross.
and he was in my class, of course, and I just knew she was gonna group me with that dick. So I was not, I didn't want to be in a group. So I'd say, "Can I do it by myself?" She's like, "Well, okay, okay, no problem." And my teacher was cool. She knew what I did. She would give me books on the sly to read because I was a huge reader. She saw it. And we, as poor as Louisiana's education was, I was surrounded by books. I was surrounded by books, and we would go to the library, the school's library, and then they would read to us, and our teachers would read to us. Well, anyways, so I wrote my story, and I don't know how long it took, or 3 or 4 days. Well, she gets these papers back, and she tells the class, and she's sending them back to the group. She said, "Great stories, great stories." She goes, "But there's one I really want to read you guys." And guess who didn't get their story back? And I'm going, "Oh shit, I'm gonna get my ass kicked." Like so. And I knew it was going to be me. And she's, "Oh, Ryan's written this really cute story, blah blah." And she's reading it, and I mean, through the whole thing, the class is so quiet. I'm thinking, God damn it, they're looking at me. I know they're looking at me, and I'm just kind of looking down and all that. And right at the end, when she finished it, they stood up and clapped. Like,
Mm.
yeah, it was the weirdest thing. So that was kind of like, oh, kind of like that moment, like, wait a minute. So it's recess, and I remember just standing with some friends and all that, and I saw them kind of clear out. I'm like, what the fuck, you guys? All of a sudden, here comes Guy, and I'm like, oh, this is it. Here comes the pounding, man, from a guy named Guy. And he kind of taps me on the shoulder, and I see him, and I was like, yeah. And he kind of looks up at me like that, and he says, "Loved your story, dude." And that was it. And he never fucked with me again. And so I think
Wow.
that showed the power of, again, damn it, something that I've written, something that I can write. And from then on, that it just kind of it snowballed from there. You know, going into horror now, another interesting story. And my poor mother, God, my poor mother, God bless her, I love her. This whole time she's trying to keep me away from all this shit. And once again, I think I was about to turn 12. Pet Cemetery was all the rage. You remember when
Oh
the movie
yeah.
came out?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh my God, saw it at a friend's house, scared the crap out of us, but I loved it. I loved it. I loved how they would kind of peek their hands and all that, which I never did. I was a weird child.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I begged her. I'm like, my birthday's coming up. If, whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. I said, "Where's a book I want?" And before I can even get it out, she said, "Nope, I already know what you're going to say. You're going to want one of those damn Stephen King books." And I'm like, "No, no, yeah, yeah." And she just refused to give me this. And I was like, well, so I had my another cool aunt. Like I said, I come from an awesome family. My Aunt Justine, we call her Aunt Just. And Aunt Just is kind of she's a fun chick, but she's a no nonsense. No means no. She says no, that's it. You don't argue with her. And she was going to take me out to dinner that night. And we went to the mall, and oh my God, I'm going to be dating myself right here for sure. But there was a B. Dalton booksellers in the
Mm.
mall.
Oh my God, B.
Do
Dalton's.
you remember them and Walden books? That was the other one, but I love B.
Walden, I
Dalton.
loved Walden
Oh,
books.
Yeah, I
yes,
remember
yeah.
Walden for sure.
They B. Dalton, man, that was my haven because I knew they had this damn book. And so I went straight for it, and I went straight for the aisle, and she's following me and all that. And here it is, the paperback, which I still have, by the way. through everything, through Katrina, through moves, through breakups, through you name it, through
Mm.
presidential hell. So yeah, still have it. And so I pick it up and I said, this is what I want. And she kind of looked at me and she said, really? I said, more than anything, Angel. And her response was, okay. And that was it.
Nice.
And I brought this home and my mom was livid. I think she even tried to hide it from me a few times, but I think from then on, that was it. I was hooked. And of course, I read this book and carried it around like a Bible. It was the scariest thing. I had an adult horror novel in my hand. And from then on, that's, for Christmases, for my birthdays, I asked everybody, I'm like, this is what I want you to get me. And there was no stopping. My poor mother just kind of, well, shit. I was sneaking my brother into movies like the original Chucky and things like that. So,
Yeah.
and I used to terrify the crap out of my sister by one time I did this and it was for her birthday. And she was, she had some friends over for a slumber party and she's bugging the crap out of me. I'm trying to read and I'm trying to write these stories and they're screaming in the next room. So I took she had this really tall Barbie doll type thing and it had the little arms. Well, I broke all the arms off and the legs and I suctioned them to my face and into my chest and I had all this
Nice.
ketchup and so it looked like it was popping out of my body and I came screaming into that room, and I was just kind of telling them like, oh my God, it's coming out, it's coming out, it's coming out. And these girls were just, that was it. I was like, yeah.
How old are you?
Was that a my size Barbie?
It was one of those big ones. I had the hand would come down, it would hang past my chin, and it kind of suctioned them. I don't know how the hell I got on there, but it was worth it. Oh my, it hurt the next day, but it was worth it. But I was probably 12.
I love that.
That's so funny. I remember when my size Barbie came out, I almost wanted my parents to get it for me. And now obviously they never would have done that. But my sister did have not that we're going to go on like a whole Barbie tangent, although with the new Ken music video out now, I could go on about this forever. I'm so excited. But they had those like, it was like hairstyling Barbie and it was like just the bust of Barbie, like just her head. And it was larger. It was like a human size head. And you could like change her hair and style it and do all the things. And of course, me being me, I like cut her hair and gave her bangs and like did all the other shit.
Oh my!
I've made side bang now. Yeah,
we destroyed that thing. I think by the time any of us were old enough to really remember what had happened to it, it had been destroyed.
Well, that hair is like plastic hair.
Yeah,
right. You're right. It's
long.
made out of like recycled trash bags or something.
One time
I was
left
super
in the
into
sun.
My Little Ponies. That was my thing. So I wasn't super.
Oh my
I
God,
like to braid their hair and like do all their like.
We had one that when you squeezed its ass, it said different things, and
Yes.
so we as children would run around the house and just be like, "I love you. Comb my hair. I'm pretty. I love you." And it was just like this cycle that like every time you squeezed its butt, it would say one of those things.
It was basically the Barbie horse Barbies because
it was
like they
horse
all were like
Barbies,
it was like blah 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 horse and magical crystal princess horse and then Dr. Horse and you know what I mean. But they were all like fabulous and you could do their hair was like on point and I love.
We had some pretty fabulous toys in the 90s, but not to derail this whole conversation with Barbie and My Little Pony.
Oh no, I play with Barbies. Like I said, I turned one of my sister's baby dolls into Pinhead one time. That was fantastic.
Oh God.
I kept that forever. Oh yeah, it was fantastic. It was great. She let me.
How's your relationship with your sister now?
Right. Has she completely disowned you?
Oh, she's a great gal, my sister. I love her. Thank God she doesn't remember a lot of that stuff, and I have a memory like crazy, because you remember the Feed Me game that they had based off the Little Shop of Horrors, and it was the plant you put the marbles in, and then it would snap.
What?
Oh, it's called Feed Me.
You mean like Hungry
Hippos? Yes. And it was the
hang on a
actual
second.
plant. You got to check this out. It's called Feed Me Seymour, I think, or the Feed Me game.
Little
and it was
Shop of Horrors, real
Yes.
nice.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was the actual plant, the bulb, and its mouth would stay open, and you would drop these marbles in, and you had to wait because, of course, they would weigh it down and would grab it. Well, of course, I would use it to eat my sister's Barbies and stuff, just like the movie, so I thought that was
oh my God, you've got
me.
to be kidding me. I'm watching this right now. It's insane.
Oh my God.
You see it? Isn't it great?
It's so unhinged.
Great. Well, it sounds like pure camp. It just sounds like a campy game.
It does. I'm not going to watch this whole thing, but there's like this 16-minute video of a guy like putting one back together, and now they're showing the commercial. Oh my God, it just like snapped at your hand. That's so funny.
Yeah, it literally just like the movie. It had the pod. It had the pot. Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
Oh my God,
To,
Sarah,
to
maybe
feed
we
me.
need to buy this for my
Yeah,
pilot.
just play it live.
Just
No,
play
but
it on
seriously, no,
set.
you're giving so many ideas. But yeah, so it sounds like you had a lot of really fun experiences as a kid being yourself, which is so cool. And that,
Yeah.
and it seems like that was such an empowering moment for you at school to be like, what you've written has changed people's thoughts about you. It's also made people kind of open their mind a little bit because Guy's not
Mhm.
gonna come after you now. He's like,
Right.
good job, bro, or whatever the hell kind of
They
bull-
used all of them. It got around, especially
Dude.
around high school. It got around like, oh, don't mess with him. That's Stephen King Jr. right there. He'll
Oh,
kill you.
word.
Oh yeah. I was called that all through like seventh, eighth, which was horrible years. But thank God I had that cover because everybody knew I would probably kill them on paper.
There
So
you
they
go.
like, oh, I don't want to be that. But I tell you who the real enemy was at that time was in high school. I were the teachers from going from like elementary into high school. The whole attitude changed. It seemed to where they were, handing me books and encouraging me. Whereas in high school, they were more like, "Oh, you need to stop doing that. You need to grow up. You need to stop that daydreaming." And I'm gonna tell you two good examples, and this will never leave my head. And once I get up and get that Academy Award, I'm gonna mention it real loud and proud. Um, I used to skip out of high school to go watch movies being made in the city. I had a friend of mine who owned a movie studio. It was kind of, little independent studio. And this older gentleman, and I guess just took a shine to me, saw that I, wanted to do this. And I would, instead of skipping out and going drinking or cutting up or whatever, I went watch productions being made. It's what I wanted to do.
Mm,
And and look, I got on some interesting. I saw Aerosmith videos being made. I've seen Leanne Rhymes videos. Who else? Boys to Men. I've seen, you know,
amazing.
oh, it was great. It was fantastic. And so of course I got caught. And my mom, I remember getting drug into the principal's office, and he looked me in the face and he said, "I don't understand why you're doing that." He said, "You realize that's a fantasy. That's just a thing." He's like, "Where you need to be a school, that's a real thing. But this filmmaking thing, you need to forget about all that. That's not something you need to be concerned about at this time." And my mom, I guess, single mom, she's dealing with a lot of shit. And I guess she kind of, agreed with him a little. And she said, "Oh, what about your studies and all that?" I said, "Well, I think at that time, if y'all would have been a little bit more open-minded, y'all would have said, well, shit, this kid, we need to put this kid in a different direction. He's obviously
Right.
doesn't want to be in the classroom. He wants to be in the field. And of course, no. And that same year, I remember trying to apply to UCLA. And I went to the guidance counselor there, and I could still remember I know his name, and I remember what he looks like. Uh, Tall, skinny, creepy guy, talk real slow. And yeah, was civics teacher. Go figure, right there.
Wow.
And yeah, and I went there, and I was applying, and it's 11th grade or whatever, and I'm looking at colleges and all this stuff. I said, and he says, well, "Which one you like?" And he's pulling out all these local ones, and I'm like, "No, no, I want to go to California." And he kind of scoffed me, and I heard him do it, and I was kind of like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Well, where?" I said, "UCLA." And he kind of looked at me, and he pulled up all this information. Is why he's pulling out the printer. He tells me, "You're never going to get into this school." And
Wow.
yeah, my guidance counselor, the student counselor. And he just kind of did that. And he kind of just handed me the paper like that. I'm like,
Thanks
wow.
for the guidance.
Yeah, my high school and the
Thanks for
guidance.
the
Yeah,
counseling.
Yeah,
Isn't
seriously.
that great?
Wow.
A lot of no's at that time. And of course, my mom, she single parent and working all the time. And I don't think she really saw what was going on in any of her kids. But again, it's not her fault. I mean, we're talking about the 90s. I mean, there's no internet. There's no way to look and see like what can we do. And she comes from a very basic background. She didn't go to high school and things like that. So I don't think she understood or saw the potential there. So it was something I had to create myself,
Well,
and to
and
do
that's
to the
also
best of my abilities.
something I'm actually really excited to see from generations like after us that are younger than us, because they did grow up with information to see what is out there, to see the world from the comfort of their home and understand the scope of what they're capable of doing, whereas like we had a very limited version of that. You more so than we did, and us less so than they do. And I like there's so much power in being able to see, like, and I mean, in a sense, you did have it. Unfortunately, you had voices that you couldn't reference on something like the internet, to kind of combat that, but you were able to see productions being made. Like what is fantasy about that? Those are people who are working that are getting
that's what
paid.
strikes
Like,
me is like
that's what's so crazy.
You're watching people do the very thing that they're saying is not possible, but you're
or
watching
real,
do
and
it.
yet
Like,
here they are.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Southern Louisiana, especially around that time where my mom lived and all that, where she still lives. I mean, it's just not. It's not a progressive area. You know, it's very much in this bubble. You know, and the education is extremely poor. I had a horrible high school experience. I didn't learn shit in high school, except how to sneak out and go find my dream. You know, so it wasn't in the classroom there. But it's that mentality there. You know, it's just they don't think outside of what's because I've had relatives that's never even been out of the state. And that's
well, and I totally
scary.
understand that. What's baffling to me is that it wasn't outside of their bubble or their box. It was literally right there, like to the point where you could go to there and see it. So it wasn't even like, not thinking outside the box, not leaving the bubble, not leaving the city. You didn't have to. It was literally there. And so that's so strange to me that it's like there's something right here that is so tangible and visible, and these are hundreds of people who are paid to do this thing that you're saying you want to do, and yet it's still go back to school because that's the real thing. It's like, yeah, it's a real thing for another like what year, and then I'm out. Like,
learn the same boring things you've been learning for 10 years.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, let's not progress with
I had that same shit with my guidance counselor in my school. I went to a small Catholic school in Pennsylvania, and it was the same crap. It was like, you're gonna have to get a real job. It's like, okay.
and what's so crazy is you're still kids, and it's like,
yeah.
What's so odd is like, I think when we hear about these stories, and I also grew up, I was born in a bigger town, but I grew up in very small towns until I came to New York City. And it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, it's almost like active ignorance. Like, it's like, because we're talking about something that's right down the road. They know, but they don't want to engage. It's almost like it's fear. It's all fear based.
That's a good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it.
And
because I mean, once. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, even on a more like tangible level than it's being filmed right down the street, people go home and watch television. Like, you're talking about having the HBO box. Like, how do you think that gets made? Like,
how
do you
does
think that's
exactly?
Like, is that charity? Like, what do you think? What do you think that is? Like,
someone makes those things, man. You go to here's the the Cineplex down the street, and at the time in that town where I was, you had to go into New Orleans for one of the bigger places, but they had these little two screen theaters, and I mean, who you go to these movies, and people say, "Oh, this is a fantasy. It's fantasy." Like, there are thousands of people on just one production alone. Where do you think these people come from? They're not all born in L.A. It's crazy.
Yeah, right.
My idol, Stephen King, was born in Maine. He's not
right.
from New York or
it
LA.
Also is like, it's just like, and I think we talk a lot about like SAG-AFTRA and like the strike going on with WGA and everything else right now too, but it's just like, it's a business. Like, this is like how shit gets done, and to the point of the strike and all the negotiations going on now, like the number one thing that people did during the pandemic and do otherwise is get themselves entertained through streaming services and other like forms of internet through media consumption. So like, if you're not going to pay those people appropriately to do that, then like fuck all the way off. We'll take you down. But even more so on a more like analog level of what you're talking about, you got to see it firsthand, which most people don't get to see, especially in small towns. And so like, and I get it. I too am from a small town, like seeing a film set, seeing something like that. Of course, like everyone in the town is like, I think of like Music Man when the Wells Fargo wagon comes in and everyone's like, what's happening? What is this? It's the same kind of mentality where it's like, who are these people and what are they doing in my town?
Well, I'll tell you something funny. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, you go for it, Ryan. You're giving the hot takes. You're giving the good stuff.
So I tell you, right after, I mean, I graduated. Of course, I was 18. Right when I was leaving that town and moving directly into the French Quarter, like directly into the middle of the city, there was a production that came to my mom's town, which was Crazy in Alabama with Melanie Griffith and Antonio Banderas. And sure enough, they came to their town.
That's Sweet Home Alabama. Never mind. I was like,
no,
different movie. Never mind.
Crazy in Alabama by the book by Mark Childress. It's oh my gosh, yeah, it was great. Sure enough, I see my guy from New Orleans. He's there. Of course, he's there. He's been running this little mini studio, so of course I'm sure he hired a bunch of people. So we go there in the town square, and sure enough, he sees me. He's Ryan, 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 come over here, come over here. He gives me his pass, and I go walk on there, and I'm sitting around, and I remember standing around just kind of looking nonchalant because I know, I'm not gonna sit there and, oh my God, you know, um, I'm not starstruck. I don't really care. I
Mhm.
just want to see the mechanics of how it worked. And sure
Yeah.
enough, I'm standing behind, of all people, Antonio Banderas, because he was the director, and he's up there with the monitors, and I'm watching over him. I think this was the first time I actually noticed how celebrities, they always say how small they are or how tall they are, and he was my size. I'm like, all right, we're on the right page here. We both the same size. He's dressed down, yeah, a real good looking guy. I mean, really, really nice. And they're teaching him how to eat crawfish, which is a big thing where I'm from. And he said, oh yeah, I suck the heads too. I do that. And he's teasing him, Anthony, you know how to make the crawfish? Oh yeah, I know how to eat the crawfish. It was so cute. And of course, Melanie Griffith walks by and she's asking questions, and it was kind of cool. But my favorite part of that day, there was a lady sitting in a chair kind of off to the side, and they were all taking a break, and she's looking at this book with recipes and wine and all that stuff. And she kind of looked at me, and I'm looking over. I said, "Oh, that's this wine, that wine." Because when I was a kid, I used to make wine. Yeah, go figure.
Whoa.
Yes, yes, I did. My father taught me how to make wine when I was 12, and I've been doing it ever since. And I had a small winery in my closet, which my mother, she walked in there because I mean, you can't miss that smell. So of course she said, "What the hell is going on in this room?" And so I got busted with that. I had about 17 different little ice cream,
Wow.
yeah, 17 little ice cream buckets, and they were all fermenting, the juice and all that. And of course, she tried to derail that and telling me that, oh, you're poisoning all your friends, because I was selling it to the neighborhood kids. I mean, come
Oh
Oh
on,
my
my God.
God.
yeah, of course,
What was
and I
the
was.
vintage? What was the name of your wine? Like, I want to
Oh,
know.
I have a list. I'd have to drag it out, but there was one. It was an orange wine that I made, and I called it the Godfather because it burned. Oh yeah, it was
Work.
strong, and like
Love
an idiot,
that.
I didn't take the peelings off. But yeah,
Was
and
it like brandy based or was it like
it's if you I would use the big ice cream buckets, and you would
mm,
put the fruit with the water plus the yeast and the sugar. You had to put a
okay.
certain amount of yeast, and it would ferment within a week. Um, there was one that was really great that I made out of blueberries, and it was like a champagne. And the only reason why I know that is because it exploded. So I had it
Ooh.
in, yeah, I took it out earlier than what it should. I think I took it out on the fifth day, and I put it in a
Mm.
Crown Royal bottle
You're
because I
supposed to
saved
wait
the.
to the seventh day according to the
Oh
book.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And I stuck it in this little thin bottle, and I put it in the ice chest that I had it, and I was high. And all of a sudden, I can remember hearing, and I mean, all this. Thank God it was an ice chest. All this glass would have went everywhere. And I'm thinking, man, it carbonated. I'm like, fuck yeah, champagne right there, blueberry champagne. I did it.
I
You know,
love that.
Oh my
I
God,
love that
blueberry
your mind
champagne
was like,
though.
I have a solution. It's champagne.
it
I get
was
it.
great. And I still have the log from back in God, this had been 93, 94, and I still have the log
I'm
of
still
everything
stuck
I
on
made.
blueberry champagne. I want to try this. This sounds
Yeah.
so
Very
when
easy,
we
very
come to
easy.
New Orleans,
I will let you know. You will
And it
come
please
better
to
make
be
us
the
in
some
an
blue.
ice cream
you will
blue
come to the
bunny
Ryan
bucket.
Winter class of fermenting fruit. Exactly, exactly. So getting back to my original, no, I because I knew all this from wine, and I had studied it because I took French in high school, and my mom's side, they're all my great grandparents, they're from France. So I knew, the
Oh.
culture and all that. Oh yeah. And I studied it in high school for fun, and because I knew it already, and I learned oenology, which is the study of wine and things like that. Yeah, 13 years old. Anywho, I remember standing over this lady, and she said, "What would you pair this with?" And I think it was like a pork roast. I said, "Oh, you know what? This front." And she looked at me like this little 19-year-old talking about French wine and pairing it with her. She said, "Really?" She goes, "I would have never thought that." And I said, "Oh, and look at this, blah 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 blah." Anyways, and we're talking. She said, "Are you on the crew?" I said, "Not really." I said, I'm kind of a student, And she said, "Okay." She said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I want to be a screenwriter more than anything, and I want to be a writer, but definitely would like to be a screenwriter." She said, "Well, you can send some things to our company." And I'm thinking, who are you? Who is this lady? Come to find out, I'm walking away, and she's shaking her hands, and I introduced myself, and she says, "Oh, I'm Deborah Hill." And I'm like, "Deborah Hill? That's the producer of Halloween. That's John Carpenter's ex-wife."
Oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, "What?" You're telling me this now as we're walking away? Like, I have so many
I
questions.
love John Carpenter, one of my favorite people. Yeah, that's
Oh
so
my God. Yeah.
cool.
She produced the Halloween films and wrote them with him. They were married at the time. She's a huge producer. She's the Dead Zone. I mean, she did all these movies. Clue, I mean,
Wow.
yeah. Oh yeah. Deborah Hill's, she's been in the business a long time. Sadly, I heard a couple years later she had died from cancer or something like that. Yeah. But I was very privileged and to see that I still have letterhead with her name on it because it was Deborah Hill Productions. I'm like, so I got to sit there and I didn't talk about movies. I talked about wine pairings with Deborah Hill. So
That's
yeah.
actually really cool because not a lot
That's
of
such
people
a
can
cool
say
story.
that. I'm sure a lot of people spoke to her about
Yeah.
film, but you
Mm.
spoke to her about wine because
Well,
you know
and
what you're
that's
doing in that closet.
well,
Yeah.
Oh
right,
yeah.
but
Oh yeah.
it's also like, all these people are so tired of being talked at about these things. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure she was like thrilled to talk to someone about something that was not the project that they were working on, or tell me about the industry, or like what do I need to
Yeah.
do to break
Exactly.
into the industry? Like, shut
Exactly.
up. Yes,
Yeah.
talk to me
Exactly.
about why.
Now, not to say I didn't send it because I did. I did send two
Oh,
screenplays I
you
was
got to
working on at the
take
time.
the end,
Right,
honey.
take the
But
end,
oh
but
gosh,
like,
yeah, and sure enough, she wrote me back. She said very interesting. She said it's not first, but she said I see something here. She said keep going. That was the last
oh,
time I
I
talked to
hope
her.
that's in a
It
frame
was.
somewhere.
I do. I have it.
Good. I really quick want to transition over to your books and the life of them moving forward. So,
Yeah.
we're looking at two different novels that you have. You can
Mhm.
kind of pick whichever one you want to start with first, which is the new one, which I believe is Wake the Devil, and
It
then
is.
Ravish is your previous one.
Yes, yes. Wake the Devil actually started around 2004. I was living right in the middle of the French Quarter, and at that time, I was really, I guess because I was in young 20s, so I was starting to really understand what New Orleans was, the history. It wasn't just going down bourbon and seeing titties and catching beads and all that, what people think, and it's really not. That pisses me off more than anything.
Mhm.
But I started really understanding the history and meeting a lot of writers and people there. And it's so much different from where my mom was, because now being in the center of it all, you're meeting all these, eccentric people, these artists and painters and musicians and all that. So I got to go and do all that. And at that time, I was looking for something to write about, and I came across the idea of the Axeman murders of 1918 New Orleans. And I talked
Ooh.
to a lot of people from this area, that were older than me. That was like, "Do you have you, anybody said it?" Not that I expect them to be around in 1918, but no one ever mentioned this. And every time I would talk about it, they're like, "Oh, I never heard of the Axeman." I'm like, "Serious?" And it was always a footnote in these guides on like haunted history New Orleans, and it would be kind of like this one chapter. So I was like, man, I need to write about this guy. And there's a beautiful center right in the middle of the French Quarter. I encourage anybody to go that wants to learn history. It's called the Williams Research Center on Charter Street, and it was this big like kind of stone brick building, and it looks like an old precinct, back in the 50s, and I think that's what it was. Beautiful building, had the old, the marble floor and the big windows, gorgeous, gorgeous building. And I started pulling microfiche of all the dates that were in that. Everything was wrong in these other books. So I was finding out what was the right dates and the misspellings and all that. I said, oh, I got to do this. And it was meant to be a script, and it just kept growing the more I learned about it. And
Mm.
so basically, here you have this incident in 1918 where these it started off with Italian grocers. They were being savagely, just completely like, slashed and butchered in their sleep. Um,
Wow.
and it's nobody knew why. It had the weirdest elements to it where he would chisel out the back panel of a door and slip through. And nobody can figure out how, because no full man can fit through one of those. And he certainly wasn't reaching up for the key. If there was no key in there, there's nothing you can do. So how was he doing this? He always did it with the victim's own axe, and he left nothing behind. Nothing. Of course, fingerprinting, all that was in its infancy, but everything was by instinct what these guys were doing. And you know it happened one night, and it scared, it frightened people that were in the mob, were coming to the police for protection, saying, I don't
Oh,
know who the hell this guy is, but you need to keep him off. He has
Ooh.
nothing to do with any of us. And I thought that was intriguing. So there were several, and then it moved on to another grocer, and it happened the same way. And then it happened to another. So it's all of a sudden became random people, and they could not catch this guy. And the city was just in fear. of what
Sure.
was happening because nobody knew, and so there was the reason how I got on the project, why I wanted to, is I read a report where they were asking some of the policemen, who do you think it is? And some of them were embarrassed at the time to say, we don't think it's a man at all. They
Mhm.
were thinking it was something supernatural. And that's when I get goosebumps even thinking about it. So because one, he was never caught. They have no clue. There's plenty of suspects, just kind of like Jack the Ripper. They don't know, and there's not even a close to a theory of who this guy was or what he wanted because they didn't know. He just kind of randomly, slaughtered these people with axes and all that. And I found out later it was kind of an ongoing case. There was actually some incidences 10 years earlier and then it stopped. So what is this? I mean, it's very intriguing. So, that's when I got on. And again, it's one last murder. I think generally they believe it's probably about 8 different incidences.
Mhm.
Although there was sightings like crazy. Everybody was seeing Axeman in their freaking coffee. He was
Right.
everywhere. And there was a couple of cool things that I liked about it. There was he wrote a letter to the police one day, sent it to the newspaper there in New Orleans, the Times-Picayune, and he wrote this huge letter and said where he was from, which was Tartarus, and it was hot, and he loved sultry air. That's why he loved New Orleans. That's why he was here, and he was very fond of jazz music. So he said, I propose next week on Tuesday night specifically. He said, if everyone in town is playing jazz music, I will spare the city a victim. So the whole city is playing jazz music. The sales for instruments went up. People were hiring, all these bands. So everywhere you went, there was music blazing. And there was a gentleman, this musician John Davila, he had orchestrated this song, this very ragtimey, very pretty song. It's definitely not nothing creepy, and it was called the Axeman's Jazz. And he wrote this for that special occasion. Of course, they would in New Orleans, and
Of
people
course
were
they
lit.
would. That's so
Some
them.
some people were like, "Yeah, that's cool," and some people were like, "That's disgusting. You're writing this tune for this murderer." But he did it, and it sold like crazy. For like I think it was like 5 cents a copy, 25 cents a copy, or something like that. And he went around the French Quarter that night in a carriage and played this on a piano all night. And I just can't get that in.
Wonderful.
That's wild. And so there's also another incident. I think it was that same night, and in my book it's that way, um, where there was a fraternity, Tulane, which of course is a big school there in New
Huge school.
Orleans, one of our top ones. Yeah, one of our top ones. And
Yeah.
there was a frat from Tulane that invited him to come to a stag party. That they were going to say, hey, look, we won't, we'll leave the doors open, all the windows. Don't chisel nothing. Don't break nothing down. We'll leave everything open, and you can come to our party. And now whether he did or not is another story because nobody knew what he looked like. But that's again, you can look up the advertisement where they actually invited this idiot. So just crazy stuff like that. And so I wanted to make a historical fiction kind of wraparound story. There's some fictional characters that kind of take you through it, but all the incidences, all the murders, all the articles that's in there, it's all there. It's all what really happened.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm googling this now, and the cover of the sheet music, it's called "The Mysterious Axeman's
And
Jazz."
don't
Don't scare me, Papa.
Don't scare me, Papa.
Don't scare
Oh
me,
yeah, it was
Papa.
crazy. There was a I didn't know that the grocery store, which I've never actually been to one. I don't ever recall seeing one in this area, but the Piggly Wigglies.
Oh my God,
Um
I've been to a Piggly Wiggly.
yeah,
I was in Tennessee, y'all. Of course I've been.
I was gonna say, I think it's in the other southern states. I don't think it's where I am, but oh yeah, it's
Bury
they
that.
even they were like in on it. They were like, oh, we'll slash the prices just like the
Oh
Axeman.
my
Oh yeah,
Oh
God.
my
it
God,
was ridiculous.
funny.
Oh yeah. I found that out later too. I was like, oh, I got to put this in
Leave it
here.
to humans to capitalize on like serial murderers.
Murderers. But also like
Exactly.
what a interesting survival technique to mentally get through it. They're like, fuck, you know what? Like, here's a song for you, boo boo. Let's have that
Right.
jazz,
And
slash some
let's
prices.
slash some prices of our meat. Like, let's do it.
Exactly.
Just do it.
Exactly.
And that's very New Orleans of them too, because I've noticed, like, I went to the Voodoo Museum in New Orleans and I just love that museum. And just the obsession with like, yes, and you know this person was, and I'm like, wow, you guys are really in, and I like love it.
They
Yeah.
love their history. It's a
Yeah.
city that's in love with itself. And I try to make the city a
yeah.
character in the book because I even, in fact, when I write it, I
Yes.
write the city, capital C, you know, because it is one of the characters.
Oh my
You
God,
know,
Ryan, I did that in my book too. Every time I
oh,
talk
what?
about the city is capitalized.
Yeah,
How very Sex in the City
come
of you guys.
on,
Yeah.
man.
I
That's
know.
right.
That's why I did it.
Yeah.
I did it because I'm
these
Carrie
are
Bradshaw.
these are you are no, these are very like two locations that are very have a personality, which I
Very
Oh
really
my
distinct.
love.
God, yeah.
And I think that's why I love New Orleans so much, because I've lived in New York now for so long, most of my life now. Well, the biggest chunk. And to go to New Orleans and feel that very genuine vibe of it's like
Gosh, yeah.
it's such
Yeah.
a you
Like it's
feel it in the
alive.
crowd. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Well, the playwright Tennessee Williams, you know, he has a famous quote where he says there are three distinctive cities in the United States, in America. He said there's New York, there's San Francisco, and New Orleans. Everywhere else is Cleveland. And I love that.
Ooh.
Ooh, hot take.
I
Ooh.
think
Right,
I think
right.
I think
Ba-bam.
LA and Chicago might have something to say about
I,
Yeah,
that.
but you know, interestingly, I think I would add Miami to that list. I think Miami's a very distinctive city. It's very,
Yeah.
very different.
I would,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Miami. I think, in my experience, and that's all I can speak to, Miami's like kind of not
It's redneck LA.
until
I know.
nighttime. Like once nighttime hits, then it's like nightlife.
You get yourself a frozen cocktail and then you're in. But yeah.
Right, but it's like Miami's kind of boring until the sun goes down, you know, whereas like in all these other cities that we're talking about, there's stuff to do constantly.
In the morning, in the afternoon.
And yeah, and the
every time.
architecture, and they're all
Oh.
cities of neighborhoods. When you think about it, I always thought New Orleans was like the older sister to San Francisco because it's a city of neighborhoods. It's affected by its geography, you know, it's distinctive in its architecture. Things like I always thought they were, you know, New Orleans was the little dirty sister that's like, come on, have a beer, you know.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
New
no,
Orleans was a
she's in.
woman, she'd be Auntie Nola, honey, and had, you know, her negligee standing on the balcony smoking a cigarette, cognac in the
Ugh.
other hand. What are you
That's
doing, darling?
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
get
God.
to why like Anne, because I was into the Anne Rice novels when I was younger and I read all of them covered. Yeah. Okay, work. I was going to ask you about that. I didn't want to take from your, because your story sounds fantastic, but I just wanted to say, I'm feeling like tastes of like, I love how she integrates like you're doing history with, you know, more drama and more, you know, just like kind of making it your own while also investing in these characters and these historical places and incidents.
It's a big part of where we are here in the South, and especially New Orleans. I'm just going to say New Orleans because some of the other states I've been and lived in, but but New Orleans especially, it's attached to its history, and we relish it and we love it. You know,
Yeah.
it's a lot of places like, oh, I don't know about my city, but we do. We keep, you know, emblems. I don't know if you can see there is above right there.
Oh yeah.
That is
Oh, cool.
the cover of a sewer main. I'm sorry, not the sewer. I'm sorry, the water mains in New Orleans because they're decorative.
Oh,
And
cool.
Yeah, they
have,
are.
yeah, they have the crescent moon with the stars on them. They're specially made. And when people steal them, they do. So they put them on earrings. They give you fake ones. They like that one's a cover of one. It's and they replace them with these ugly ones that just say water. You know, and I'm like, so once they're gone. So please don't
Oh.
rip them up, please, y'all. Like New Orleans is struggling as it, you know, as it is. So please don't rip
Stop
the water
taking her
mains up.
caps, all y'all. Come on now.
Please, oh my gosh. So yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. I mean, that kind of already lends itself to being like a pretty great feature.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
easy.
New Orleans.
But for time, I would love to move on to Ravish. Talk to us about Ravish.
Yeah, I want to hear about her.
Now this is an interesting thing. I rarely dream. My ideas are always inspired by something I see in the news and things like that. The world's a sick place. We know this. I love it. And you know, at the time, before Ravish was done, I left New Orleans. I'm gonna say about 2017. Came out of a horrible relationship. Well, it was a good one that ended bad. Let's just say that. Had to leave the city. The rents were flying up because of a lot of New Yorkers moving in, and the rents went from like, you know, 1,700 to like 3,000. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah. Oh yeah. But you know, it's cool. I met a lot of cool New Yorkers, but you know, they
Like they ruined my life, but
leaving the prices and the stress of New Orleans, and it comes to New Orleans, of course. I'm like, ugh, New Orleans, like, but so I had to leave, and this was a little bit of serendipity, I guess, in a way, because I moved to a friend south of the city. My mom, I wasn't even there, I think maybe a year, and my mom got breast cancer, and so she really needed my help, so this couldn't have worked out any better. And she went from stage 1 to stage 4. I mean, almost overnight. Um,
that's
and
what my mom had. Exactly that.
it's I was with her for the last 4 years, of those next 4 years, just every day going through the emotions with her and all that. And she lives with my grandmother, and my grandmother, 80 something years old when I got there, and this woman drove a car. She went to work, tough cookie. Oh yeah. And I mean, it was like God. Within, I think, 6 months, I moved in with them to take care of her. She lost her eyesight. She lost her hearing. She fell down. And I'm like, so of course, my grandmother, all of a sudden, her life is just completely different. We had to sell her car and go through that. And, and my grandmother, she's not an easy person. She's not the sweet granny type,
She's an old
So,
Southern broad.
Yeah.
yeah. She's
What the fuck are you
She's
doing?
a battle axe. A battle axe.
Oh yeah, I call
I
it the
love a
gremlin.
battle
I call it the
axe.
gremlin, but it's cool, But oh yeah, she's the gremlin. Oh, she gets on my nerves, but I love my grandmother. And like I said, they're all colorful in their own way. But anywho, I was that at some point I was sleeping really bad. Of course, I was having nightmares out the Yahoo, and I remember one particular night I just could not sleep. Finally went to sleep, real stressed out, and I'm feeling lonely at this time because I've been in back in this little small town, and it's been like 2-3 years, and I'm missing New Orleans like crazy. I can't really go anywhere because I can't leave these two, because New Orleans is only like 40 minutes away, but I still couldn't do it. And so I remember dreaming I was in this bed, like almost like the old hospital beds with the wrought iron, and I remember being I felt like I was pinned down. I remember trying to get up, and my hands were out almost like a cross, and I was stuck. And I looked toward the left, and I remember seeing this door slowly open, of course. And I'm like, oh God, what is that? What is that? And when I shifted my eyes to the front of the bed, somebody was standing right there. And I couldn't really see except his eyes, and they were purple. And I remember this bleary blue, just this bright, bright purple. And I remember just being scared to death. And I kept saying, "Who are you? Who are you? What do you want?" And all I kept hearing was he was kind of giggling. Just I can still hear it going, like he was mocking me. And so after a while, I said, "What do you want?" And he says, "Don't you love my eyes?" And I'm like, "No, hell no! These scare the shit out of me." And he says,
No.
"They're green like yours." I'm like, "No, they're not. Yours are purple. They're bright, bright purple." And he kind of went around the side of the bed. By that time, I had woke up. I didn't think about it too much. About a week later, sure enough, I call him the purple-eyed stranger. He came back. I was in the same damn bed, and the room was a little different though. And sure enough, he was standing at the front of my bed again. And I said, "Who the hell are you?" And I thought he said Calix. That's how I can remember it. He might have said something else, so I wrote the name down, Calix. And I said, "What do you want?" And he kind of just did like that. He kind of pointed at me, and I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And I went to get up, and I can't. Well, he stands up, and he's floating literally toward me. And I remember this really interesting sexual component. Like, it's
Whoa.
like this weird, yeah, like I was scared, but I was like, he's gonna bang me, man. Like, I could see him coming at me.
Yeah.
And he's gonna, the first thing I thought was like, are you an incubus? You gotta be an incubus. This gotta be what it is.
Yeah.
And he's literally eye to eye with me, and he's floating, and I could feel him fondling me. I could feel his fingers touching up my leg and, coming up. And I could feel it like, oh my God, it's like, wow, that's really great. And when I went to look up again, he just kind of jumped at me, and it looked demonic, and I woke up. And so I had wrote it down. I was like, who the shit, Calix, incubus, gay incubus. And I'm looking through all these, yeah, it was crazy. So
I
I
love the
looked
idea
through,
of a gay incubus.
Yeah. He's just like
Well, see, that's the
What's
thing. See,
up?
you have a succubus, which
Yep.
is the one, the women demons
The
that rape the
female.
men, and
Right.
incubus,
And they
and
and they
so
have her in everything. They have to like it's always exploitive at some point. It's like, all right, yeah, it's a succubus. We get it. It's
yeah,
always
yeah,
want to
exactly,
see a topless feet, a titties on screen.
yeah,
We get it. We get
yeah,
it.
exactly.
So I'm interested in this incubus boo-boos. Okay. All
So
right.
he's so I said, well, I gotta, there's no, I'm not gonna call him a gay incubus because that's just boring,
A
and I said,
ginkubus.
Again.
so anyway, you know so like so I made up a new word, and I'm looking through some Latin words for men, which it's men, male, virum,
Yep,
virile,
Vietnam. Yeah.
and so for some reason it just culminated into the word virilium. And so that's his species. That's what Calix is. He's a virilium. He's a gay incubus.
Word.
And his origin story is that not, no spoilers here, but he was a human who was turned into this particular race of demons, with specific goals and all that. So basically the way he lives, and this all started in ancient Mesopotamia in 580 BC. He's originally what would be Croatia today. It was called Illyria then, so he's an Illyrian. Comes
Mm.
to, and it starts off that way and explains what happens. Then we go into present day New Orleans. That's the meat of the story, but he basically, the way he survives is he has to fuck you to death to live.
Work.
So the young, the more virile the guy, especially in the 20s and 30s, that's his target. And once he fixes his eyes to you, oh, you're screwed in every way, you know.
That's
So
that's
he
kind of hot. I'm gonna
Yeah.
fuck
oh,
you. I'm gonna fuck you to death.
and let me
Work.
tell you how many people I have explained this to, and it's so funny. As many guys I've told this to, I said basically he gives you the orgasm of your life right before you die, but you don't realize you're dying. But he basically sucks that out of you, and
Ah.
everybody I tells that to goes, oh, God. I'm like,
Hot.
no, you're dying, you idiot.
Well,
But
isn't it in French the little death is the
that's right,
orgasm?
le petit
Yeah.
morte. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
exactly.
so that's very interesting to me. And also like, there's so many movies about like women who bang men to death, right? There's like,
Hmm.
especially in the 80s, that was like a surge in such
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
genre, like whether it was
yeah,
Madonna
exactly.
or what's her face, like
Yeah.
they're just like, so it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear. I think this is very fascinating. I think this is actually really interesting, especially on a horror spectrum. Like this, there's so many possibilities
And
here.
I try to make it, it's meant to, and it's definitely influenced by kind of like Anne Rice, what she did. Again, she didn't make them in a lot of these mythologies. She gives them a mythology, which I love,
Oh,
which
I
was
love that.
definitely, it's definitely that, because there's also going to be two more books that's going to go back in time and explain everything that goes
Oh,
on.
I love this.
Oh, it's
Yes.
gonna be fantastic, because there's, not to give away something, but he's looking for someone, and so the books go backwards in time. So the next one's going to take place in 1969 New York City, and
Hmm.
get ready, folks. Oh, get ready. Yeah, you're gonna need lots of tissue. So as much as it's erotic, there is
Tissue
this
like I'm
story
gonna
to it, this
cry, or
mythology.
Yeah, I think I know
tissue
what he
like
means.
I'm
Oh
gonna.
yeah, yeah. Come on now, come on now.
You know what he means.
This is the Christian Coalition. Come on now.
Yeah, come on now.
Oh,
But
thank God.
they but no, it's that,
Yes,
and
God.
the story itself in the first book evolves around him preying upon a circle of friends, but he falls in love with one of these guys, and shit just goes to hell, because that's just against their coda. They
Right.
can't fall in love. That's what ultimately destroys them. So, and of course there's a lot of secrets and a lot of twists and turns that happen, because this boy ain't what he seems, and some other great stuff, but I ain't gonna spoil it for you, but it's definitely worth the read.
And where
Um,
can people find these books and where can they find you in
It's
terms of
definitely you definitely can find it on Amazon, because I self-published them both.
great?
They both went through the ringer with traditional publishers, but everybody wanted to cut this and cut that. I'm like, no, 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 no. They wanted to turn it into something else, and I'm like, no, we're not going to do that.
Mm,
So I self-published it. Definitely can find it on Amazon. I don't have a website yet, just because I'm still working on it. It's still being
sure.
cleaned up. But right now, my Facebook fan page, which is Ryan Winter fan page,
Mhm.
I prefer that because I can talk to everybody better. I love to interact with people, just kind of on a, what they're reading, what they're doing, and I post a lot of my stuff there. It's just user friendly for me. I
Yeah.
do have an Instagram as well that I post on, which is Ryan Winter, author Ryan Winter. I'm sorry. But yeah, the page is coming, but I really like working that way, because I like to talk with people.
Sure.
It's
So
just easier.
So you had mentioned you have a show Bible for Ravish. Like what is kind of like the next step for that project? Are you going to be doing that also with the other book, or is Ravish kind of the focus?
So I had a meeting with a producer a few years ago, it's probably about 2 years now, and there was some interest in with him and all that, and he said, I really love this idea. He said, this is so unique. I mean, I could see this as a series. And I'm like, I would have never thought that. I'm like, well, you sure? You think there's enough material? He said, well, you have 2 more books coming. He said, man, you can really do this. He said, I would encourage you to study how to do a TV Bible. He said, I won't do it. I said, I want you to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I learned how to do it, of course. I mean, I've been writing screenplays all, for years and years, working in projects in New Orleans and stuff. And so that's set. There is some interest for it. And I've written the first 3 episodes, including the TV Bible.
Wow.
And now there's also some, and I don't want to say who they are, but there's 2 or 3 different, independent studios that are looking at Wake the Devil. I've already written a screenplay and already turned one in. So there is
Great.
some buzz about it. So, and which is funny because Wake the Devil is like 4 times bigger than Ravish. So that's the one everybody wants to be a movie, which to me, I would prefer it to be a series because there's just so many characters. There's so
Yeah.
many different things and then see, and Wake the Devil has this huge present day wraparound story, which I had to completely cut out for the screenplay. I just couldn't fit this into a 2-hour frame. So either way, but there's definitely material ready. So if there's someone out there that would like to be involved, yes, everything is available.
That's fabulous, because I think too, like, I don't know if you know our background, but I've created some series and gotten them on Amazon and stuff like that. And I've also, Ed's wrote a novel, and he's kind of transcribing that into like a pilot and everything. And
nice.
Yeah, we both are creators. But it's really exciting to hear that you're open to, and I think this is something that a lot of people need to understand. And it's part of being How to Be a Rich Bitch, is to understand that it could go in different places as long as it keeps to your passion, and it's honest to you, and it's yours thing. It could be a series, it could be a film, and there is something really freeing about a series where like you can follow all these path lines and characters and their background stories, and you have the time to explore those and have a payoff at the end.
Especially with Ravish, because there's some pretty intense shit that I don't think I'm gonna get away with in theaters. And plus, this particular producer, he's out of New York. He's really good at finding books to turn into properties. I don't know how the hell he found mine, but
amazing.
It's and he said, look, this got to be a series. I've never seen anything like this. I've never heard anything like this. He said, I would send this to Netflix, Ryan Murphy, whoever you can, man. And where was I going with that? Oh, so he said, look, I would kind of hold off on the second book because let's see if we can get this sold. Because the second book's already in the can per se, as far as like what's going to happen. Now the third book, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen as far as
and that could be season 3, right? Like each book.
Exactly.
So that's fantastic.
The first book will definitely cover season 1, although I have expanded the Bible with new characters, things like, so I can stretch it. Right now it's set at 10 episodes, but it can be stretched. They're 10 1-hour episodes. And like I said, I've already written the first 3. So this particular guy, he's very, very encouraging. It's very, very nice. But he was off working on other projects, so it kind of just stalled a little, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Because I've got 3 more books coming. So get ready, folks.
Get
ready.
That's
great. Love it.
Thank you. Wow. Such a great conversation we had. I love all of this.
I'm so curious to see which direction this goes in, because like obviously like a feature is different than a series. I'm always going to be partial to TV because you can do so much more with it, but I'm so curious to see how that shakes out, and how close to the book it'll end up staying, and like
I hope
all of these things, well, of course, but like at some point, like sometimes you have to like kill your babies, as they say,
of course.
Like red pen it. But I love watching these things kind of unfold and see where they end up.
Yeah,
it's what I've always wanted, and it's something. I worked in film. I have a writing partner back in New Orleans. I'm still in touch with, and we created a series, sort of like before Black Mirror was Black Mirror. We had already something already done, that wound up. We did a short version of our pilot, and they had the Big Shorts Festival in New Orleans, and we won the top prize. And
Wow.
New Line Cinema and all these people were there, but nothing came of it. Like they never, nothing. We never got a call back, and we was like, wait, what? That was the deal, and but and we had written, I think 12 different episodes for the first season.
Maybe it would work now because a lot of times it's timing, like there
Yeah,
are
yeah,
things
oh
I've
yeah,
had,
yeah.
there's a lot of things I've had meetings for, like even 5 years ago, and they're like, that's way too left of center and crazy. And now they're like, oh shit, wait a minute. Like now we're even going farther than you were acting. And I'm like, well, what the hell? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you never
definitely see
know.
that.
I love
It's
that.
good to have that
for
on your back
sure.
burner. Yeah.
Well, Ryan, you're gonna have to keep us posted on what's happening with all the things, because I for sure would love to hear the progress of it all. And of course, like if
Thank
you
you.
want to ask us questions or anything, you're more than welcome to reach out and keep a dialogue going,
Yes.
because we love finding people who are doing the things that we're doing as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you're in that
Thank
great
you.
city of New York, man.
Oh my God,
Like
I know.
I would be going a lot further if I was not in such a region, but
No, I don't think that's true. I mean, I think especially with the internet now, like, yes, maybe you would have different access to people here, but it's not like the internet doesn't exist. Like you can totally get shit
It's gonna
done.
get better. It's getting better.
Sure.
At
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, I'm a
for
people
sure.
person. I'd rather be out there and talking to you.
I get that.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
but use what you got, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I got it this far with it, so
exactly. We're definitely
going
entering a place that is not location specific for having a career in any kind
Thank
of art form.
God.
It's
'Cause
kind of great.
back when I started, there was none of that. We didn't have
Yeah.
any of that stuff, man. So we had to write. I remember printing out so many copies of screenplays because there were about 28 screenplays completed, so, and having to send those out and going to the library and having to pay for,
so much
120
money and
pages.
10 cents a
paper.
copy. I know. Oh God.
And
And mailing
trees.
it, and oh my God, the manila folders, oh my God.
Oh my God. PTSD on the manila folders.
I can't stand that color anymore.
Ew.
It's
Yeah, why
terrible.
is it so lame? It's the worst color. Anyway, whatever.
It is. Who decided that? Anyway, well, Ryan, thank you for joining us. This has been a fantastic
thank you for
episode
having
of
me.
How to Be a Rich
Hell
Bitch.
yeah.
Give me the
And
dollars.
Give me the dollars, and we'll see you
I'm
next
down.
time.
I would like to procure the bag.
I wanna be a rich bitch. Penthouse store man, money, 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 rich bitch. Hey, give me that bag, rich bitch.
You're so rich.
Pay me.